Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Pham's Coffee and Boba. I think we're on episode number 4. And as you guys have told this season, we're just doing nonprofits. And today we have Be the Light Foundation. And I think you guys are going to be one of the smaller nonprofits that I've kind of interviewed. So this is going to be really interesting. But this is Sandra. Would you like to kind of introduce yourself and maybe your position at the organization?
I am kind of, you could say, the founder of this organization. And my position is I'm one of the directors that, kind of the silent director, that kind of runs things and gets people involved in getting information out in the community.
So how big is your team now?
Well, there's about 5 of us that kind of do the main planning meeting, and then we have different groups of volunteers that help us depending on what we're doing in the community.
And you guys are located here in Grand Island?
Yes, we are.
Okay. And how long have you guys been around?
We have been around since 2022.
2022. Okay. And share as much as you would like, of course, but do you have a personal connection with the organization since you did start it? And like, what does it mean to you to kind of represent?
I'm just going to give you a backstory of how I got involved in this. So in 2018, there was some suicides in the area, and I decided to get involved with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So I started the Out of Darkness Walk, and I did some other events in Grand Island. So in end of 21, I was just like, I love the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, but I wanted to do more for our community. Mm-hmm. And so I had this idea, and some of the people that were helping me, plan these events, I said, what do you guys think? And they were like, yes, let's do it. Mm-hmm. So we kind of pulled away. I pulled away from the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I still do partner with them, but I'm not a part of the organization like I used to be.
Okay.
So we decided to do more for the community, raise money, keep it here, help the people in our community, like with support groups, because there's no support groups for mental health. There's no support groups for people that have lost someone to suicide. So we started those. We do community events, just giving people information about mental health and suicide prevention. We also offer, education and trainings, because the more we train people and give them that information, the more people will have that opportunity. If they need to help somebody, they have that education. Because we all get first aid training on how to fix if someone cuts themselves. Well, we do kind of the same thing, but with mental health.
Sure. Okay.
And so that is kind of how the connection started. Was just I heard about these, and I'm like, some suicides. I'm like, nobody talks about it. There's nothing here. So I started investigating. I'm like, there's nothing here in Grand Island about mental health awareness or suicide prevention. And just because we don't talk about it doesn't mean it's not here.
Yeah.
And so that was just something that really hit me, and I'm like, we need to do something. This is not going to go away. Excuse me, it's not going to go away. It's just, we need something. So this is why kind of it got started and why we keep doing it, because it's just something that so many people struggle with, but they struggle in silence. Mm. And we want to let them know they don't have to do that.
Yeah. So you guys started in 2022. Have you really seen kind of the impact that you guys have put out? Do you get? You said you have like monthly meetings, or is it more of like kind of are there scheduled events that you guys do?
We do have support groups every month. We have for parents that might have a child or children that have mental health disorders. We have a mental health disorder support group, and we also have a survivor of suicide loss support group that meet every month. We do community events, and we do a Pause for a Cause in May, which is Mental Health Prevention Month. And that's always a fun event where people come out, bring their pets, because pets play such an important role for mental health. So it's just a fun event we do every year in May. In September, for Suicide Prevention Month, we do a Time to Remember walk, which is getting people together, remembering their loved ones, offering them support, and just kind of having them be their voice of the loved one they've lost. Those are just community events. We also do one in December called our Winter Festival, which is a fun, free event. Like I said, these are community events that are free. The Winter Festival, we have Santa, we have the Grinch, we have tons of games and activities and prizes. And one thing we also do have is education and resources about mental health and suicide prevention and self-care we give out to the people that stop in, excuse me, just because, like parents, for example, parents might see their teenage kid as being lazy. That kid could be having some mental health issues. So we give them information on signs, what to look for in your kid. Even the little kids, they can start showing symptoms young, and we overlook them. So we give people information on what to look for, how to help. We're not saying all kids struggle, but we have that information there if the parents choose to take it. But we try to just have lots of fun activities and giving them giving them.
Sure. Do you guys have do you guys have an office or something?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Where's that at?
It is out on South Locust Street, 3012
Okay.
South Locust. We have a couple offices there. We don't have somebody there all the time just because the entire foundation is ran by volunteers. We have no paid employees.
Sure.
But someone's normally, if someone would need something, there's ways of contacting us.
Okay. So on top of running the foundation, you have a full-time job too.
Yes.
That's quite a bit of work on your guys' end. But yeah, I'm glad your team is growing and that you have a support system to support you. Do you guys have some overarching kind of goals that you guys use as a North Star when you're thinking about what programs we want to do, or maybe what services that you guys offer?
Well, we do like to do the education, personally for me, education and resources and trainings are so important just because I have done trainings before and I've had people come and say, I didn't know this, how to help somebody, and this has really helped me. Or I've had people say that training I took, I actually was able to help somebody. So that is really important to me. One of the gals, what's really important to her is the support groups. That is so important to her. So we each play an important role as, you could say, as a team for this organization. I eventually would love to be able to offer financial assistance to people. We do get calls when someone has lost someone to suicide. And I wish we had the financial means to help them, but that is something hopefully in the future we can. But right now, we don't really have that much funding, but we make sure there's always resources and training and information and community events to bring people together. And it's just amazing that people will come and grab stuff and they I know someone that needs this, or I would love to have this. And
So for you, you mentioned the training and the education as a big part of that. Is the thought process behind that is just for you to be able to kind of evaluate situations before it escalates, just being proactive about seeing those things? Is that kind of the main objective behind that?
Yes, because I know a lot of people don't know what to do if someone comes and says to them, I feel like hurting myself or taking my life. People don't know how to react to that. They want to fix it. They don't want to just sit there and maybe listen and see what they can do to help that person. So a lot of the trainings or education we can give you is tell you this is what you need to do if someone comes to you. Or if you recognize the signs, you can go, hey, I've noticed this and this and this, and get that person help, because we aren't trained in that. Most people have no idea what to do if someone comes and says, hey, this is what I'm thinking of doing. And so to have the resources there and that education and that training can really help people save lives and get people the help and support they need.
Do you do these more one-on-ones, or are they kind of classes that you guys have scheduled, or is it
There is, was it last year? I can't remember. Oh, in December. I was trying to think when it was. In December, we offered an assist training that we did have to charge a little bit because that's a very expensive training that we brought into Grand Island. That is a suicide intervention training. And we had, I think, 7 or 8 people this time. Previously, we had, I think, 12 or 14. No, we had 17, I think, that got trained. So we do offer that at least once a year. But then we do other trainings. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention has some amazing trainings. And they allow me to have them for people at no cost. So we are planning this year to be able to offer more and more. Usually we try not to really do one-on-one, but a group of people. But we do have a lot of resources and information we do give people if they're requesting stuff.
Okay. For me, I don't listen to the news and stuff a lot, and I don't know if it gets a lot of coverage or not, but is that something that like happens often in our community, or is it kind of far and few? Like, are you seeing some kind of, not necessarily statistics, but like what are you seeing since being in that kind of?
There actually is, I think, more suicides just in our area than people realize. A lot of people, excuse me, a lot of people don't want to talk about it because it's still a very taboo subject of suicide. So that is one thing I've noticed, that some people don't want to admit that they've lost one to suicide just because of the negativity behind it. Suicide doesn't just affect the family, it affects the whole community. I mean, unfortunately, I've known a lot of people who have lost someone to suicide. I might not even know the family personally, but it still affects me knowing, there's just so much that goes behind it. It's just so much detailed. It's really just heartbreaking. So unfortunately, I think, like I said, the more we talk about it and not make it so taboo, I think more people would be able to reach out. It's just a very difficult subject to talk about.
Yeah, it is. And I imagine it's, it needs to be handled with much care for sure. And I totally understand what you're saying about just kind of starting an open dialogue about just in general. I feel like so I'm Vietnamese, and my parents growing up, my dad talked about how he wanted his death to be, and I don't know, like those conversations were just kind of very, very much like casual conversations we had around our home. But I think in American society, it's like people don't like growing old. People don't like talking about death. People especially don't like talking about suicide. In my life, I've only experienced it once. I had a close friend, I think when I was 21 or so, never seen it coming. The guy was, very much huge part of the community and always out and about, and you would just never expect it. It seems to be the case in most of these scenarios. Are there some kind of misconceptions that you see people have about mental health or suicide that you would like to maybe address?
Well, one of the things I've noticed, like with mental health, people are more quick. If you come in with a broken arm to work, people are going to be more caring. Oh my gosh, your arm's broke. Let me help you. But if you're saying, I'm really struggling with my mental health, they're not as compassionate, I feel. At times people take a day off because I needed some mental health day. People will be like, I don't understand that. Well, sometimes you do need a break from that. Life gets busy. You do need self-care is very, very important because, you're running a business. There's probably days you just need a break from everything. I mean, you're go, go, go. All of us are. We are so busy, especially like teenage kids. I mean, my goodness, they'll be doing this at school, having a part-time job, having their studies to do. I mean, these kids are overwhelmed and they don't know where to turn to. And, I'm not saying parents don't pay attention, but parents don't realize that is a lot of pressure for a kid. I could not imagine working even part-time, doing all the classes at school and activities. Oh my goodness, I'd probably be way overwhelmed. But then kids do it. And, kids are, they're younger, but still, I just think sometimes kids can be, especially teenagers, can get really too much on their plates. And it can affect their mental health. I mean, there's days I get way too much going and I got to step back and go, okay, I need a day. I need a me day. Even if it's just going out and walking my dogs. That is my time where I have nothing but spending that time, and that helps me. So we do need to talk about taking care of ourselves, and self-care is so important. That's another thing we talk about is self-care. It's not just, what's best for you. What I like walking my dogs. Maybe you'd rather just sit back and listen to music. I mean, we all have our one little thing that makes us happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I remember having my 15-year-old nephew, and he was in swim class, and the guy was up at 5:00 in the morning doing swim class, and then he had an afternoon session as well after he went to school too. I'm kind of weird and nerdy, and I'd listen to those like self-help books and things like that. Actually, I remember somebody talking about how we'll see our calendar and it might seem weird that like it's not filled with stuff, but it's like you're supposed to not have some days where it's not, filled with meetings and agendas and this and that.
Definitely. I think we as a society, you got to go, 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 go. And, you have to take that time for yourself. And kids you want your kids to succeed in life and do this and this, but you also got to step back and go, you need to step away from this. And I see, like I said, I'm not trying to talk bad about anybody, but sometimes I see kids that are just in this and this and this. And I'm like, wow, those kids need a little bit of time to just be a kid. And I'm like, well, as adults, we need that time too. I always tell people, you need to take some time. Self-care is so important. And yes, we talk a lot about self-care. We have information about self-care, ideas to do. And I'm like, it's so important. And like I said, I'm really big about mental health too, disorders, just because they still are that, people that never experience mental health disorders have no idea what people go through. And that's something that really, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but
kind of like resonates with you.
Yeah, because there's times that I have an anxiety disorder. I'll tell people I do. And there's some days it's hard for me to do anything. Other days I can push through it. And some people have even a hard time going to stores or going here or there. And I've heard people say, well, just quit thinking about it. Just don't, it's like, you can't. That'd be great if we could just do it. But you can't. You got to, you learn to how to get through that. But mental health is so different. When you have other illnesses, people don't say, oh, just quit thinking about it. Just get through it. But mental health, people still aren't have that compassion that it is a disease. It's not something that we can just forget about. And you talk to people that have different mental health disorders and same things. They don't want to tell anybody. They might be working with coworkers, but none of those coworkers know that they have a mental health disorder because they say, if I do tell them this, they're going to treat me differently. That's how it shouldn't be that way. And it's like if I'm having a really bad mental health day, I will call in that I'm sick, but I have the flu, not I'm struggling today. And that's not right. We need to be, as a society, accept mental health as just as serious as any other kind of illness.
If there's somebody that is experiencing that, what would you recommend that they do?
That is struggling with mental health?
Yeah.
Well, it kind of all depends. I know for me, when I have really bad anxiety, what works for me, but I can't tell someone, try this, see if it works for you. Everybody's different. But one thing is, if you do feel really overwhelmed, you do need to seek help, professional help. That is one thing I will tell anybody. There's nothing wrong going and seeing a counselor, a psychiatrist. There is nothing wrong with that. But if you are struggling and it's just not getting any better, do seek professional help and do not be ashamed of that.
Okay. Do you, speaking of kind of seeking help, like I know you mentioned you guys have meetings and groups. Is that something that happens monthly or is it weekly?
Every month we have every month we have the same support groups.
Okay.
And they are usually posted on our Facebook page. So we say when we're having them and where we're having them and who can come, and we do have people that do come, and they just that relaxed atmosphere with someone that is dealing with the same thing they're dealing with really they make connections.
Can you tell me about one of these support sessions? Like, what does that look like? Is it more of like an agenda base, or is it just like people listening?
It's peer-to-peer. So we'll talk about our survivors of suicide loss. So the facilitator, she has lost someone close to her to suicide. So her support group, that came on top of my head when it is, she meets, and anybody that has lost someone to suicide can come to that. And it's just a peer-to-peer. They just talk about their feeling, talk about what they're experiencing. And going to a support group, I've talked to a lot of people that have lost someone to suicide, and they say, there's different support groups for someone when you've lost somebody, but it is a different loss when you've lost someone to suicide versus any other way. That they have tried to go to different groups. They said it's different. So this support group for survivors is a group where you kind of make the connections, where they understand how you feel. And so that is, they meet once a month, and I cannot remember. I'm trying to think what she said, when her group is.
Oh, that's okay.
But yeah,
yeah.
so she's.
They can find that information on the Facebook
Yes.
page.
And so she, you just come in and you can just sit and listen, or you can join in the conversation. She don't put you on blast, like, who are you, whenever you're comfortable.
Yeah.
And the same way with our mental health support group. You come in, you can just listen to us. I mean, there could just be one day you're like, oh, it's just been a rough week for me. And we talk about it. And it's just kind of a peer-to-peer group. We are trained in different ways how to handle the situation, what to talk about, stay away from triggers that can, but it's just having nice to know you can sit down with somebody and go, I've had a really bad mental health day. I couldn't get out of bed. And someone will say, you know what? I've been there. I understand. It's a more, we have your back kind of feeling. And it is a good feeling to know that we're there. And the one thing with mental health support groups, it's scary to come to those. When you have anxiety and you really want to come to this group, but yet you're just like, it's something new. I just don't want to step out of that bubble.
Yeah.
But when we've had people come to that, they're like, this is exactly what I need. But just to get you out, because it is, it's a scary thing. And so just to have that group, and like parent support group, the couple that run that, they've had a child that they dealt with that had experienced several suicide attempts, a lot of mental health issues. And they went from knowing nothing how to help their child to having their child graduate from college this year. So I smile about that because the struggles they went through with her, and they helped her. And it brings tears to my eyes because the story is just amazing what they've done for their child, and to help her and lift her up when she went through so much trauma with her mental health. And so they're there to help parents that might have a child or children, or I should say a caregiver that has a child struggling, where they're like, we don't know what to do. They're there to help them say, this is what we did. So they're there to help and guide them, to help their child or children through the struggles with mental health. And those are very important to me. I feel support groups are very important because when you have anything to do with mental health or suicide, you just feel like you're alone and nobody understands. And when you can find somebody that has been through that and understands, it just feels like a weight off your shoulders. I'm not the only one that feels this way. Yeah. I'm not losing my mind. It's just, this is normal. This is normal for someone that has anxiety or depression. And I just feel it's a great thing to offer the community.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that for sure. That story that you mentioned about the parents and having the kids graduate, does that really kind of hit you in a certain way because you've seen other parents not react in the same way that maybe those parents have? And it's kind of maybe not refreshing, but
it's just one of those things that so many people don't understand mental health. And they don't know what to do if their child says, hey, I don't want to live no more. And I'm not talking bad about parents at all. Some parents are like, oh, just don't talk like that. Mm-hmm. Not understanding, whoa. Why do you feel that way? So just to have some parents that had no idea what their child is wanting to die. Mm-hmm. And instead of, they were like, okay, we need to do something, and dived in and tried it and did their best and did an amazing job to help this gal. I want to have other parents have that knowledge. Because, I'm sorry, 10 years ago, if my kid would have told me that, I'd have been like, I wouldn't have sat down calmly and said, well, why do you feel that way? Yeah. I would have been like, oh my gosh, what? Yeah. And so I want parents to get that information, not to be like, oh my goodness, and freaking out if their kid tells them that, to be able to sit down there calmly and say to their child, well, why do you feel that way? And get that child help. So we can watch their child graduate too. Yeah. So that's one, I get emotional when I talk about that. But young kids go through a rough time, and that is a temporary feeling. But when they take their life, that's a permanent. Yeah. And so I'm really big about making kids know that that might be the worst day of their life, but tomorrow's going to get better. Mm-hmm. The next day is going to get better. But kids being, brains not fully developed at such certain ages, they don't understand. So we got to not only educate them, tell them, hey, tomorrow's going to be better. We got to tell the parents, we're going to give you this information so you can tell your kid tomorrow's going to be better. So as a parent, I'm like really big on that. So it's just, I've seen too many parents get heartbroken over losing a child.
I think this conversation would be very different if it was maybe even like 11 or 12 weeks ago, because my wife and I, we just had our first, and he's just kind of growing and he's becoming more cognizant, and he's smiling, and he's just like becoming more of a person, you know. So I start seeing things a little differently, and I'm already, you know, start to think about these conversations and just these things. So as you're describing it to me, I can only imagine what somebody would go through if they had to lose a kid.
Oh.
I see that you posted here on your Facebook page today about it says men need to know it's okay.
Yes.
Can you tell me about this post that you did today?
Well, we like to put information out there. Just a lot of people share. We just put stuff out, you know, it might be something positive or information on, for example, the men post. Men are more likely not to ask for help because, you know, as a male, you're supposed to be strong. Don't talk about your feelings. Don't talk about your struggles. You just go out there and be strong and tough. No. Men have feelings. They need to show their feelings. You don't have to be tough. You know, they say real men don't cry. Really? I hate that sentence. I really do. I'm sorry. You know, that is something that men need to be aware. You need to reach out. You need to talk more. No one's going to look down on you. So this was just kind of getting that information out. Men are more likely to die by suicide than females. There's so many, if you read actually the statistics about suicide in males, it's frightening. And, you know, they don't want to talk about it. There is, a lot of young males, teens, 20s, 30s, that will take their lives. Everybody will say, I had no idea, because they're supposed to be strong. And we need to let men know, no, you ask for help. No one's going to look down on you. So we always are pushing that initiative. Reach out. Check on your strong male friends.
I was browsing your guys' Facebook page, and I saw this one, and it made me think about my wife, because for one reason or another, where she's had some mental illness that she's kind of working through. And I probably have some that I don't even recognize yet, but we're always talking about it. But for some reason, one way or the other, she brought this fact up to me. Actually, she was just like, "Did you know?" And she's always like that, you know. And I was just like, God, you know, that's really true. It's like, it's like a societal issue of how men are supposed to be, and the way they're supposed to act, and the way they're supposed to dress, and it's, you know, how are they when nobody's looking? And to your very point, that it needs to be said so much more. And that's like, for me, like such, you know, like I personally feel very lucky to meet my wife, who's like very open-minded, and she's taught me a lot about mental healthness. To have somebody that, you know, like as a male, as a man, you have somebody you can go to and you feel comfortable, you know, having these conversations without feeling like someone's going to laugh at you or judge you or look at you a certain way. And not everybody has that person that they can go to. So this, just scroll down, and of course this is the first post that you had, because it was just 6 hours ago, but I saw that and I immediately thought about my wife and how we're always having this conversation. But yeah, that's awesome that you have this one, because I feel like sometimes too, they don't get enough conversation.
I totally agree. I do think this younger generation is different. You know, I don't know what generation this is. You know, the 16, 18-year-old boys. I think this is a different generation. They're more getting told, you can talk about it. Yeah. But I still think 30-year-olds aren't. Yeah. 40-year-olds aren't. And I'm sure definitely the older generations definitely aren't talking. That is, like I said, reading statistics about suicide it's just sad. And it's just, I'm hoping that even, like I said, I've been doing this since 18. I have seen so much change with the 988 number, which I think was great. More people talking about it, more people wanting information. It has changed, but I know we still have a long way to go on this. I'm very passionate about this. This is something that I will take a little break. People won't hear from me for a few weeks because I have to have my self-care. And then people know, okay, we haven't heard from her. She's just off the radar for a little bit. But then I come back 100% stronger. Right. It's just, we all need that break. And I know sometimes I don't. I push myself a little further, and then I need to take a little bit more time. So I'm always I'm better about taking care of my self-care, but not as good as I should. But I'm always pushing everybody else, you need to take a break. So it's a nice feeling to do something. And I always tell our group when we're done, you know, we might have had 100 people there, but I know one person that came needed us. We'll never know who that is, but we helped at least one person that day. And that is always something we know that we have made a difference in somebody's life. And that's what it's all about is, like I said, if we help one person every year, that is amazing to me.
That's worth all the efforts.
It's worth everything. And like I said, I love giving out information and anything I can do to make a difference in the world.
What are some challenges that you're facing now, trying to spread the word, grow the organization in the sense of trying to, have your voice be heard more? Like, what are some of those challenges you're facing, and how can our community support you?
The biggest challenge is people don't want to talk about it because it's the negativity. That is the biggest challenge, because there'll be people that want, but yet they're like, I just don't want nobody to know I'm a part of this. And it's like, no, it's very important. But that is one thing.
Okay.
They just don't want to have any connections with it because it's a negativity. The main thing is talking about it. I don't care if you talk about our foundation, but just talking about mental health and suicide prevention.
Maybe just checking in with your kids, checking in with your spouse.
Checking in with your coworkers, your employees, anybody. I mean, it's sometimes just, if you see a change in somebody, ask them, hey, I noticed a change. Is everything okay?
Yeah.
And they might look at you and go, yeah, I'm fine. Why? Just notice a change, but let you know I'm here if you ever need something.
Yeah.
They might not need it at that moment, but maybe down the road they do, and they know they cared.
Yeah.
I'm going to come to them. That makes a big difference. And I always tell people, don't expect two of you see it and you expect someone else to go do it. Both of you go do it. Don't just expect someone else to do. Because sometimes people just need that, hey, are you doing okay? I've talked to people and they said, I just need someone to check on me. And I regularly will text somebody, hey, just how you doing? Or I'll send them a little meme that's funny. And there's just some people I know just once in a while need to reach out. It doesn't need to be anything humongous or a 20-minute conversation. Just, hey, I'm thinking of you today. That can make the difference in someone's life so quick. And it takes me, 5-10 seconds. And I mean, so many people are so lonely in the world. And sometimes they just need that one person to say, hey, I've been thinking of you today. That can mean a lot to that person. So I could go on for hours about mental health and suicide prevention. I laugh, not in a mean way. It's just, it's so important. And I read so much about it, and they say, always check on your strongest friends. The ones that are the most happiest and positive and strongest are the ones that probably need the most support.
That's interesting.
I always say, think of Robin Williams. You knew who he was.
Yeah.
Think of Robin Williams. Did anybody ever see that coming? No.
Yeah.
Because he was so happy all the time because he never wanted anybody to feel as bad as he did mentally. I've read that on multiple things, and I'm like, that does make sense.
Oh, man. I just got emotional there for a second. I just thought about somebody. And, yeah, that's true. All you got to do is just reach out and check in and just let somebody know that you're thinking about them, and that just does the world.
I listened to a comedian talk about mental health and suicide, and their story was so sad. They had a sibling that they just didn't have much to do with. Well, they flew into the city that their sibling lived in, and they landed, and they got a text from the sibling. Hey, how you doing? And they're like, oh, I didn't want to talk to him. I'm going to be laid over in their city for a while. I could go visit them, but I just don't want to visit them. So they ignored the message. When they landed their next city, they had found that they were gone. And they beat themselves up. They're like, why didn't I respond back? Maybe that's what they needed. Yeah. So it's like one of those things, as they were busy, they just didn't want to deal with it. My thought is sometimes we do get too busy.
Yeah.
And that message you get from somebody you haven't heard in a long time, they just might need to know, hey, someone is thinking about me. Someone cares about me.
Yeah.
So you might get a message from somebody like, oh, I don't want to talk with them. Just send them a quick message back. You could be the one that saves it, that could make their day.
Yeah.
Save a life. And like I said, there's so many lonely people out in the world that just needs someone to care about them. Sorry, I don't want to get deep, but it is. I just know a lot of lonely people, and it breaks my heart.
Well, I mean, I can't commend you anymore for just finding an area that you feel like that's being representative in our community, and you just started an organization and you just gathered people. And I've personally lived on and off in Grand Island for, I don't know, over 20-30 years now, and I've never heard about you guys, and obviously you guys just kind of started recently, but just the impact that I imagine you guys have done in the last few years has been tremendous. So thank you so much for Sandra for coming on the show today and talking to us about Be the Light Foundation. Yeah, I'll keep following your Facebook page, and I'll keep listening, and I'll try to promote and share as much as we can. Is there anything else you want to add before we end the podcast?
Not that I can think of. I mean, find us on Facebook, follow us for events we're having, and come out and get some resources.
I love it.
Okay.
Sandra, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for listening again, and I'll catch you on the next podcast.